Hi there everybody and welcome back to the channel. As I promised the last time I did a video of this beautiful deck, we were to look at Angel Wisdom Tarot today. Now this deck is not new, and that's regardless whenever you tune in on this video, because this deck is actually from 2020 and as I'm recording this it's 2024, so it has 4 years on its back already. This deck is a deck that I was gifted, and to be honest, I would not have purchased this on my own because it's kind of funny, really, because one of the first, well, not the first, but in the beginning of my spiritual journey, I read some books with Kyle Gray, who, as if you know him, is very tuning in on the angelic realm. So that hasn't really been something that I've tapped into that much. That being said, I did have, I don't even think I have it nearby. I was at a market and I drew a card at, the booth of an angel school. And the card that I drew was with the Archangel Gabriel. And the situation I was in at that time, I mean, it was the hairs just stood on my arms because the card was so specific and so in tune with what I was experiencing at the time. Um, but apart from that, angels haven't really been something that I was working with. So when I was gifted this tarot, I wasn't really, well, I was happy, of course. I mean, who wouldn't be happy getting cards as a gift? Um, but I was kind of curious on how I would work with them. And it actually has turned out to be one of the decks that I use the most. And I actually can't really wait to show you, because if you haven't experienced this deck before, then there's gonna be some differences compared to traditional decks. It's made by, I think it's pronounced Radleigh Valentine. My apologies if that's not how you pronounce it. And if you like this deck, there is plenty more from his hand. It's animal wisdom cards and oracle. He's written books as well. I actually didn't know him that well until I looked him up, but I can tell that he's kind of he's a big one in the spiritual industry. So if you haven't come across him yet, then I think it will be a matter of time before you do, and you're doing now. So let's dive into it. So this is the Angel Wisdom Tarot. And we have, can you read this? Thank you, angels, for guiding my path every day. I always find it so, I don't know, so soothing to see these little quotes on the side. Of course, it comes with a guidebook, and if you remember what I was talking about last time, then I have my guidebooks in a box on its own, but for the sake of this video, I just put it in here. It's been used a little bit, and as you can see, very, thick, detailed descriptions. What's also important to notice is that it actually comes with a pretty good instruction, not only to the tarot and how to do certain spreads, but also to the different archangels. And I'm going to show you how that comes into play. Oops. And for the sake of this video, I have also been putting these into order. So we're going to start with the major arcana, and the Fool is obviously the dreamer. So we're just going to go through the first of them. I think we're going to turn them around because... And the High Priestess. And look at that. Can you see it? A little unicorn. Now, what you already notice probably is that there's some of the titles up here that are a little bit different from your traditional tarot deck. And that's actually because Radleigh Valentine decided that the traditional deck was kind of ominous in a sense. It was a little bit dark and, with Death card and the Devil and Hierophant and stuff like that. So what he decided to do, look at this release. What he decided to do, this is the traditional Death card. What he decided to do was to make some of the more dark cards, dark title cards, have a little bit more positive vibration. And obviously, you can see it here. This is not the skeleton on the horse, the Reaper kind of death. This is kind of a beautiful release. And, he's really tapped into the meaning of the cards and not the words. And then we have the Devil here, which is the ego, and transformation instead of the Tower. So there are some differences in the titles, and of course it takes a little while to sort of get used to, but it's not really a big deal. It isn't. It's actually a quite pleasant way, and if you're one of those who's a little bit scared about the Death cards and the Devil cards and the Tower with the Thunderbolt and all of that, then this is actually a very soothing deck. I mean, the interpretations, the meanings are still the same. Radleigh Valentine just chose to name them something different and to sort of, make the imagery more pleasant and more soothing on the eyes. So this was the major arcana, and we're going straight for the minor. And this is the Fire, or should I say the Wands, that we're going through right now. Now, if you are very much aware, you will notice some new things about this deck, because this is a tarot deck, but it also has the text description down here. You see, too much going on, stress caused by many positive opportunities, unexpected events or rapid changes, the ability to multitask, business travel. So what he also chose to do with this deck is actually to put on some inspirational sentences to sort of, guide you along the way, because we connect in different ways. Some connect with the imagery, some connect with, whatever they've... I think we have some astrological signs. Some connect with that, some connect with the elements, some connect with text. And it's actually, and that really makes the Angel Wisdom Tarot a really great beginner deck, even though it doesn't have the traditional imagery that we're used to from the Wade Smith or the Crowley deck. Then it's a really good deck in terms of slowly tapping into what it means to be you know, asking a tarot deck certain things. So that was the wands. And we're continuing with the air. Another thing you'll notice, obviously, they all have their numbers here in the corner. And you'll also notice that they have the element in the other corner. We have the water element here, and then we have the earth element. So air is the swords. And actually chose colors, to sort of represent the element as well. So this is the swords deck. And even though there's a different imagery, I think you will be able to, if you have been around traditional decks, you will notice that there are actually some similarities to the original. For instance, this is the Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords. Sorry, that was a mispronunciation. What you will see here, the Nine of Swords is usually extremely grim. What you see here is actually the blanket on the bed that is, being repeated in this imagery. So he is using some of the original imagery to sort of connect back to the original decks. Yes. And that was the swords. So we're going on to the water. And another thing you're going to notice here, well, actually, in all of them, down here, you have old Roman numbers. Now, what is that about? That is about, let's take the Two of Cups here. So we have the number 6. What that is about is this one. And what he's intended with this is actually that if you draw a card, let's say you draw the Two of Cups, for instance. If you draw that in a reading and you go to the guidebook and you kind of, you get what it says under Two of Cups, but it feels like you need some extra guidance. Then this number is actually representative of a major arcana card that is kind of the teacher or the mentor of the card. It's kind of answering, well, how can you do to enhance whatever it is the card is telling you to do, or something like that. It is all described here in the guidebook, so no worries. It's going to be easy to follow once you sit with it. But it actually just goes to show how much thought has been put into each and every deck. You have so many opportunities to sort of connect into the deck. So let's continue with the water. And you will see that, again, it's borrowing from the original imagery. So there should be something recognizable about, especially this one. We all remember the rainbow, don't we? There should be something recognizable about these images. And finally, for the earth element, which is, oh, by the way, I guess you probably know, but this is the cups that water represents. And then we have the earth, which is the pentacles. A final thing, and you've probably already noticed this and kind of been waiting, come on, explain it. The final thing I want to say about these cards is the rather obvious letters that we have down here in the corner. Now, what is that about? That is about the angels. Now, let's just look up the G, because there are several angels that are kind of like the element that you can tune in. Yeah, the G is Gabriel, Archangel Gabriel. You can tap into the element, you can tap into the sort of higher wisdom in what's it called, in the major arcana. You can tap into the imagery, sorry, and you can tap into the text, but you can also tap into the angel. And the archangels kind of have, whether you are sort of familiar with working with angels or not, they kind of have their specific meanings and their sort of um, usual job description, if you can put it that way. So let's look at this. Archangel Gabriel wears many hats. Is known for being an angelic life coach and can keep you motivated and focused on whatever task you need to get done. Can also be thought of as an angelic talent agent for creative people. If you're working on something artistic or creative type, are a creative type like an actor, speaker, or writer, or need to find the perfect words for a conversation, then Gabriel is the ideal archangel for you. So it pretty much just goes through each, I can't remember how many it is. Yes, 15. 15 angels we have guiding you in this deck. And you have the definition of all of them here. So don't fret about it. It's going to make sense once you sit with it. But what happens when you draw a card is that you have all these options and you have sort of an angel to connect to as well. I'm going to guess this is Uriel. And what that means is that if you draw a card, say for a specific problem or question, then it's also meant to be used for something as simple as prayers. If you draw a card with Gabriel, for instance, well, you can sort of tap into the energy of that card and work with the card the next few days by actually including Gabriel in your prayers or in your rituals, or however you work your magic. So you have really an abundance of ways to work with tarot in this deck. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why that I myself is rather fascinated by it and work with it as much as I do. Even though that I'm not on a regular basis working with angels, then it is still one of my preferred decks to work with. And that has got something to do with the text, because sometimes I may have an inquiry or a question that I kind of need some words and not just imagery to sort of speak to me. Sometimes I also use this deck when I know that I'm a little bit off in my mind, because as you probably know, if you've been working with tarot and oracle decks or crystals or whatever spiritual tool, if your mind is preoccupied, if you are, say, sad or angry or not really in balance and in tune with yourself, then it can be not impossible, but it can be harder to actually connect into um, the pure intuition. So when I know that I'm in that kind of state of mind, then I usually choose either oracle decks to guide me, or I choose tarot decks that has this extra definition. Um, because sometimes it can actually just be, it can be a comfort. It can be the very first sentence. Like, I I think it was a few months ago, I had something that really worried me a lot, and I didn't really know where to go. I had an inkling, but I was kind of afraid too. And I actually draw this, the Dreamer card, and I just saw the first line saying, "A new start, trust yourself." And I didn't need anything else than that. It was kind of like I was being spoken to. I was being confirmed that, my intuition was correct, that I should go forth with what I felt like, what my intuition was telling me, even though it made me, worry and kind of scared too, to be honest. So sometimes a card comes out and it just sparks right away. So, my dear spirit family, this was the Angel Wisdom Tarot with Radleigh Valentine, and well, you can probably hear it. I highly recommend it, but of course, it's whether or not you can sort of connect with it yourself. I think it's a beautiful deck. I think it's an extremely helpful deck. I also think it's a very, very beginner friendly deck. It has all these sort of not overly positive vibes, but it still kind of, pushes aside some of the darker cards. And it's not like we should be afraid of the dark cards, because in my opinion, the cards aren't really dark. It's life. Life consists of ups and downs. So I mean, that's just what we signed up for. um but as a new beginner, it can be quite intimidating to sort of, especially in the first card. I drew the tower card myself in the very, very first um, reading I did for myself, and the very first time I used tarot cards at all. I drew the tower card, and I was so scared. I really, really, I was like, I didn't really quite know what it meant at that time, but I mean, a tower breaking up and a lightning bolt, it kind of, it kind of spoke its own words. And then I looked it up. I Googled the tower afterwards, and I was like, sorry, I'm not supposed to swear. Um, but I was so scared about that. But it was just transformation, and my God, has there been transformation ever since. So that was, I still remember that reading and that drawing as one of the most significant in on my spiritual path, because it kind of set me going. And yeah, and I haven't looked back since. So, lovely people, this was the Angel Wisdom Tarot, and I'm gonna put links to Radleigh Valentine. I'm gonna, some links to where you can purchase this. I'm gonna put all of that in the description, so you'll know where to find it if it speaks to you. I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna show for you next time, but I am working on something called Let's Talk. And it's, so far it's on Instagram. I'm gonna put a link to my Instagram account too, down below. And it's kind of like I draw a card and then I just tap into the energy and kind of try to start a conversation. I've been thinking about doing this in a video version as well. Um, I'm not quite sure how that is going to go, but it's something that I'm working on, and maybe that's going to be a new thing here on this channel. But for now, I'm just going to say thank you for watching, and bless you for being here, whether you are returning or whether you are a completely new visitor. I hope to see you soon, and I hope to see you next time as well. Have a blessed day, and yeah. Take care. Bye.